everybody. Just a reminder that the City Girls Pod is a mature podcast. It's a mature show. It's adults only, and it won't be for everybody. And so if you are not a fan of that kind of content being discussed, then we have tons of other stuff that you can listen to on the podcast. So check that out. And thanks so much. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the City Girls Pod. And this is a show where we are talking about back episodes of Sex and the City. And we are on season 3, episodes 4, 5, and 6. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Jax is here.
Hi.
And how are you doing?
These were not. So yeah, full disclosure. I texted Rachel after watching these episodes again. I said, "Oh, I remember these. These were not my favorites." I always have fun talking to you, Rachel. It's one of my favorite parts of my week. But I'm glad that we have this to debrief about.
Yeah, you had said these are problematic episodes, and yeah, you're not wrong. They really are. It's kind of shocking, especially in a show that is supposed to be kind of sex positive and groundbreaking, that it could be this problematic, for lack of a better word. They really are not great. And there's some things it's kind of sad that Aiden's introduction gets mixed in with all of this, with these episodes, but and there's some good stuff with Steve and Miranda, but yeah, it's not great.
Although, to your point, yes, it is a bummer that Aiden's intro is mixed in with all this, but something needed to salvage the wreckage that were these 3 episodes, and Aiden is wonderful.
Yeah. Well, let's dive in. Like I said off air, this might not be the longest episode we've ever done. It might be kind of short, but hey. So we have episode 4, boy, girl. And this episode, basically, Carrie starts to date a bisexual man. And then we also have he's also younger. And then we have Steve and Miranda trying to live together. And Steve is very messy, so that's a problem. And then we have Samantha basically has this hot younger assistant. And yeah, I mean, I guess she technically waits till she's fired him before making an advance, but still, in the age of Me Too, it's not good.
Yes, another problematic thing in these episodes, although he is hot, not that is any excuse.
Yes. So the big main problem with this episode is, so you have Carrie and she finds out that this guy that she's been dating, this younger guy, that he has been with men and women, and she has a hard time with that. And when she tells the girls, they are incredibly judgmental and saying that basically bisexuality is just a stop on the road to being gay, is what they say. And I think that's what Charlotte says. Yeah, bisexuality is a layover to gay town, is what they say. And yes. It really, you're talking about a woman who writes a sex column that they would all, they don't even question it. It's not like she's really debating. She absolutely thinks that if you are bisexual, you're really just fooling yourself and you're actually gay. And it's ridiculous. Of course.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Again, we see where Samantha is sort of on the right side of history in this, where, she says that funny line, like, I'm a trisexual, I'll try anything once. But I think the point is that she's at least a little bit more open-minded about people's sexuality and people's sexual plasticity than the rest of the women are, which is very troubling.
Yeah, but even she still, I think, believes that whole idea of that it's just a stop on a layover to gay town, which again is obviously ridiculous. And I don't know, it's just was very surprising to me that they were that all 4 of them were pretty close-minded.
Yeah, it's really sad, frankly, because like I think that sometimes like they're also like it this need to sort of have these labels and define yourself. And I think bisexuals often get a bad rap of like, oh, you're greedy, you want everything. It's like this guy is monogamous. He's not staring at other people. He's
Right.
not wanting to open up the relationship. As he says it, which I think is just spot on, he's dated 3 people seriously. 2 of them are women, and 1 was a man.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even seem like he likes labeling himself. And like I can relate to that. Like I've dated men, I've dated women. Like I don't like the whole idea of feeling like you need to label yourself in that way. Like you fall in love with people. And I think that they're really, it's just so judgmental to this guy who is such a sweetheart.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really surprising. That we've, I think, changed so much. If you want a really good example of a bisexual character, you should watch Heartstopper on Netflix. That is so well done. One of the boys in the, I don't know if you heard, have you heard about the show?
So
Heartstopper?
Rachel, recently I saw one of the execs at Hallmark post in her Instagram stories and say, this is so heartwarming and sweet. You need to watch it. So no, but until then I hadn't heard of it. So what's it about?
It's so good. It's a teen drama. The show. There's eight short episodes. It's not a long binge. It's on they're on 8 30 30-minute 25-minute episodes, and it's about a boy who. It's about 2 boys. One is openly gay, and the other has just moved into town, and they have a spark between them. Like literally, there's an animated like spark through it. It's really cute.
That's
And
adorable.
yeah, and it turns out the one of the boys discovers that he's bisexual through the course of the show. And we did a recap of it with my friend Larry, and I did a recap of it on Hallmark Spot. So you should check that out. It's really, really lovely. And Olivia Colman plays his mom, and she's incredible, obviously. And
Yeah.
the ending when he comes out to her is just really, really great. They have great chemistry. It's really, there's also a trans character in the show. And but it's not like it just tells the story. It's not like pushy or anything like that about it, like you might see. It's just about these kids. It's really
And
good.
that's what I love, because that's true representation. You know,
Yeah.
when you can, like you said, focus on the story. Okay, so I'm gonna
I
binge
can't
watch that
imagine.
next few episodes.
Oh yeah, I can't imagine anyone disliking it. I mean, unless you're a bigot. Like I can't imagine, which obviously you're not, but I can't imagine anybody else not liking the show. It is so warm-hearted and sweet and well done, well acted. I don't know. It's great.
I
Yeah.
love a coming of age story too.
Oh yeah, you'll love it. It's really, really, really good. But anyway, we also have Charlotte. She has this artist that does these I don't know what if you call them drag kings.
Yeah.
So it's women dressed as men, and yeah, that felt very cringe to me too.
You know, okay, so it it would have felt more cringe to me, except I'm doing this interactive show and there's this woman in it who's a drag king, and she's like so charming and sweet and funny that I was like, oh, like it was a world that I didn't really think about or know. There is still something about it that feels off based on the way that it's portrayed, though, and I can't put my finger on it.
Well, I mean, just the way that they act like this is some kind of really shocking thing,
Yes.
I think, is the way, and it's really hard for Charlotte to do. And I mean, I guess I can see why it might be awkward to pose at all. But again, this is supposed to be a really forward group of women, and I guess Charlotte's the least forward, but she's also an artist. I mean, she runs this gallery. You think that she would be, I mean, she's already done yeah, she's already done the flower where she did the painting of her flower.
Right. And I think I would be more likely to put on a mustache than show off my flower.
Yeah, I think so. I know I
That's
would.
just me.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just didn't love it. But and then yeah, we have Steve and moving in with Miranda. He's kind of a mess. And that kind of bothers Miranda. And I can only imagine that if I ever have somebody move in with me, that if I ever get married or whatever, it will be hard because I'm the messy one, and I've been
Wait,
used to
really?
be.
I don't know why I think of you as being very clean.
Yeah, I would say in the spectrum, I'm more on I'm not messy. I'm just a little bit cluttered. Like I have my piles and it's bad. But I think that it would be very annoying. Like I know where everything is and I know where all of what's in the piles. But, and I'm not like a hoarder or anything, but I would say I could probably annoy someone if I had to live with someone.
She's like, I got my piles. What can I say?
I mean, I've just been used to living alone for so long. I haven't had a roommate. I mean, I have basement tenants, but they come in and out. We don't really communicate that much. But I haven't had a roommate since, I mean, it's been at least 7 years. So
And
I don't know. It
you're
would be
used
hard.
to having everything the way that you want it and like it. I had a question for you though. Like Steve doesn't bug me that much in this, and I think you need to learn how to compromise. The only thing that I found unsettling, and I was wondering if you did, is that he let himself in with the key and she didn't know he was going to be there. I thought it was nice that he was there, but if I walked into my apartment and someone was there and I didn't know, it would startle me.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, and also I don't like that he says that she's the guy in the relationship. Because I don't know, I feel like that's kind of reading into stereotypes as well.
Mhm.
That I don't know, not my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then we also have this whole thing with Samantha and her assistant. And yeah, I mean, she should have just fired him, period, because he was so rude to all the clients. And that's not what, she wants. But she's attracted to him, I guess. And I don't know. It just wasn't great.
Yeah. The only thing that got me a little fired up if we're talking about sexy things was when he was like yelling at everyone and he's like, they need to respect you. I was like, okay. Like that's just like primal in me. That for some reason I thought it was like kind of sexy that he said that. But it's also just like you said, Rachel, if we're looking at it through the lens now that we should have been looking at it through then, it's really an abuse of power that she's, you know, inflicting on him in this case because people rely on their jobs.
Yeah. Well, so then Carrie goes to this party, this bisexual party.
You
where
know the one.
they play spin the bottle. And first of all, it was super weird that why the heck is Alanis Morissette in this at this party? Like that was strange.
Okay, while I agree with you 100% that it was strange, I will never say no to Alanis Morissette. But it didn't really make sense.
Yeah. I'm trying to think when. So yeah, so Jagged Little Pill came out in 1995. So she was like it's not like she was unknown, at this point. And like, she's like a recognizable face, like it was so weird. I thought that she was at this party.
Well, I think that's why it was even weirder because she's definitely recognizable, but it's not like she had a big enough arc or that she was like playing Alanis Morissette that it was a thing. So it just didn't seem to work.
Yeah, it was just distracting. I was like, what? Why is and at first I thought maybe she just looks like Alanis Morissette. It's not really her, I thought it was just somebody because it would be so weird. It'd be like, I don't know, in a modern show, all of a sudden Robert Downey Jr. is just there at a party and there's no explanation, or you're just that it's just really strange.
Yeah, and he's not playing himself, and he doesn't have like even like a meaty guest star where he can sink his teeth into something.
Yeah.
Although I do think it probably at the time, which I don't know, was probably like a thing. It's like, oh my gosh, Carrie kissed Alanis Morissette.
Yeah. I mean, and are we supposed to believe that Carrie has never kissed a woman? That seems ridiculous to me.
I agree wholeheartedly. How has Carrie, no, I'm not talking about anything more than kissing, but
Yeah.
how has Carrie not dabbled a tiny bit? Like, but it's almost like not only has she never kissed a woman, she's almost like freaked out by it.
Yeah,
And
she leaves the party and she says, I never want anything to do with this ever again.
I think, you know what I think is troubling about that, Rachel? Like, I could see, I am all for whatever people want to do in terms of like their sexuality or romance or anything. I mean, I a very good friend of my sister's in high school, you know, he didn't kiss his wife until they got married. Like, I completely respect that if that's like too far of a boundary for someone. But Carrie is very open with sex, which again, great for her. I'm happy to be sex positive. But to get so freaked out about a mere kiss with a woman that you need to flee a party, I got angry.
I mean, she writes a column about sex. You would think that she had, at least in her younger days. Now we'll have to, I mean, we're planning on watching the Carrie Diaries once we're finished, and it'll be interesting to see, because that's about her growing up. So it'd be interesting to see what they do in that show, because I don't know, I just find it hard to believe that somebody like Carrie would have never given it a try. I don't know.
It's so troubling. I was so glad that I had you to talk about this with after, because I felt like I was like screaming into a void.
Yeah. I mean, and the worst episode that we had reviewed, I think, was Shannon Sharon episode, which was troubling on a different level because they were asking her to go back with this really abusive person. So that was just bizarre and troubling. This one, I mean, I don't think any of the plots, maybe Stephen Miranda, I guess, kind of works, but none of them really work. And it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, the one thing, and this is going to be a compliment, but a backhanded one, I think none of the plots work because they are so seamlessly woven together, which we see in this show. And that's why it's so great, is that everything naturally flows into each other and it's very thematic. And that's such a testament to the writers and creators of this show. But when it's troubling across the board. And it was in this episode.
Yeah. I don't know. So I think we gave Shannon Sharon 5. What do you think about this one?
I'm going to give this a touch lower. It was a 4.5 for me. Probably got that 0.5 bump up because I love Alanis Morissette.
Yeah, I agree. It was not good. We'd like to take a second from this episode of the podcast to celebrate our sponsor of this episode, and that is the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast?
Do you want an inside scoop into what happens on the podcast?
Do you want early access to episodes and loads of cool perks?
Now is the time to become a patron of Hallmarkies podcast.
By becoming a patron, you get to access our patron Facebook group.
You can request episodes or even be a guest on the podcast.
And most importantly, any patron can join our monthly movie watch-alongs with stars like Paul Campbell, Natalie Hall, and more.
It's as low as $2 a month to join in and become a special part of the Hallmarkies family.
Please consider, and we will love you forever.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
Right. Then we have no ifs, ands, or buts. And this is basically, we have the introduction of Aiden in this episode. And I did forget to mention in the previous episode that Carrie smokes while she's ice skating. I was just like, oh my gosh.
Girl, come on.
Well, basically, so she goes to this furniture designer thing with Stanford, Carrie, and she meets Aiden and they hit it off. And uh, they they are going to go out. They go out, and Aiden says that he can't date a smoker. And so she tries to quit and she's really struggling. And she says, smoking is part of who I am. And, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because that just is so not a thing now as far as television. You would never have a character like Carrie smoking again. Never.
I wanted to ask you, what did you think about Aiden? I'm not even going to call it an ultimatum because I think that's a strong word, but what did you think about Aiden's boundary that he communicated that he wouldn't date a smoker?
I agree with, I don't think I could date a smoker. It's just too disgusted by it. I mean, the people who live in my basement, they're actually smokers and they always smoke outside. So I guess I can technically live with smokers, but that's different than being in a relationship and having to kiss them and smell it. And I just don't think I could do it. It's too gross to me.
Yeah, I think I've only ever dated one smoker very briefly. And I also think it's different the level at which Carrie smokes. Like, I have a roommate, one of my best friends, that like when he drinks like once a month, he'll have like 2 cigarettes. And actually his cigarettes, he has these special cigarettes that I smell them and I'm actually like, oh, that makes me think of him. But Carrie smokes a lot, which means she smells like it, she tastes like it, and it's a detriment to her health.
Yeah. And it would just make your whole house smell. And I don't know. I don't think I could do it. So I mean, I agree with him, I guess. It would definitely be a real barrier to me.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting, like, for example, if my fiance started smoking now, I definitely wouldn't like end the relationship because of it. But Aiden is brand spanking new with Carrie. So I think that it makes complete sense that he's like, hey, I'm going to tell you this before it gets too far. This is a deal breaker for me. I thought it was actually quite mature.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there's things about a person's physical appearance, and I think the smoking would kind of go into that category that would turn you off, and that's okay to have those things. We all have them.
Yeah.
So, so I actually didn't mind most of this plot. It was fine. But the Samantha plot was really bad in this episode. It was not great. So she's dating this guy who is, well, she goes to this club. They call it the Black Club. And she starts dating this guy named Sharon, and Sharon's sister doesn't want him dating a white woman. And so she basically threatens Samantha, and her name's Adina. And then they get into a big fight. And this was just so cliched. It's really just offensive. And they've had no Black characters in the show up until this. And for them to come out and I don't know, just the cliches about, well, he's big and good in bed and, stuff like that. Were just really bad. It was just not great.
Yeah. I mean, I know some people are watching on YouTube, but for everyone that isn't, Rachel's face when she said I hated it was chef's kiss perfect. Yeah, I will say that the last episode I was angry and I thought, okay, good, this next one will be a palate cleanser. I hadn't remembered which one it was. And I felt physically ill and embarrassed watching this, and I was almost past the point of anger because I was like, oh, this is just awful. Even the dialogue about, no, don't say Black talk, say African American talk, and just all these cringe things. And like for Adina, I think that the perspective that I think that they want us to have is like that Adina's being ridiculous and making it a race thing. And this is a longer conversation, but there are things that it's like, okay, if someone, especially a Black woman, if she feels a certain kind of way about wanting someone in her family to date a Black person, like, I'm going to listen to that. And I'm not saying, like, I think people can fall in love no matter what race they are, but like, I think that there was no space or grace given for her in that moment. And they made her this stereotypical angry Black woman. And that stereotype is so problematic and not something that I've encountered in my experience with Black women. And it, you know, I guess I am angry.
It was bad. It was really bad. I mean, you can certainly have discussions and plot points and things involving, you know, race and mixed race couples and things like those are important conversations to be had, but they need to be done with more nuance than this. And it was just really cringe. It really was bad. And then we also have the Stanford is starting to date this guy named Marty. He really likes him. And it turns out Marty loves dolls. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. That was also pretty cliched. But I did laugh when he says, "Are they all queens? No, just the ones from Madame Alexander."
I knew you would. You know, this
I don't think any of those were Madame Alexander dolls though, because Madame Alexander dolls are not porcelain. Madame Alexander dolls are plastic. Like they don't make porcelain dolls, and so you would never have one that broke like that. But
you're like, I gotta fact check this, right?
Because I have Madame Alexander dolls. I have a collection.
Wait, you have them, and is it Lily that has them? And just like that?
Yeah, well, and then Charlotte has to take them down, and it's very sad. Yeah, or Brick, right? That was her name.
Yeah. Rock.
Yeah, Rock. That's right. It was a little bit cliched, but it did have a few funny parts with
Stanford's funny.
I wish we got more side plots with Stanford.
Same.
Then we have also Charlotte is dating a bad kisser, and she tries to like help him to be a better kisser. But like I just felt like nobody is that bad. Like literally she's like bruised on her chin because he's so bad.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. Like you couldn't be that bad if you tried.
Yeah.
I will say my first kiss though felt very similar to the licking of the, like, I remember being really young, like 15, 16, and he was a little older. So I thought he like knew what he was doing. And I just remember being very wet after, on my mouth. So it was not great, but the bruising, good Lord.
I was just kind of like, there's no way, like, because you'd have to, I mean, I just don't think you can make that kind of bruise just with your lips.
No, did he punch her in the face? Even that, it seemed excessive for even a punch in the face.
Right. Yeah, it was weird. And then we also have that Miranda is we also have where Steve, he has this chance to shoot the half court shot and win $1 million, and so he wants Miranda to be there for him and to watch him practice and things like that. And I don't know, I just feel like when you're in a relationship, you do stuff that you think is boring for the other person.
Yes. Thank you. I think it really frustrates me. And I know it's not just like a TV plot point. Like I've seen this with people in my real life.
Yeah.
You cannot expect to like everything, and you have to be your partner's champion and their biggest supporter, not just your partner, but your friends. You've got to be like the hype person, like be excited for him.
Like I understand if this was like a weekly occurrence and be like, I'm not going to every single one of your games, you know, that kind of thing. But this is a special thing that he's doing this one time. And it's kind of like I do these open water swims a couple times a year, and they're really not exciting to watch. I mean, you just watch people swimming. It's not the most exciting sport to be a viewer of, right? But I would be really mad if the person that I'm with didn't come to support, because like I said, only twice a year. It's a big deal. It's not that many people finish, and so to finish is an exciting thing. I would be really annoyed if I was with somebody and they wouldn't come.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, Rachel. It's not like you're doing an open water swim every Thursday.
Yeah.
And it's like becomes like a whole like obligation that someone has to put in their calendar and part of a schedule. And also, like, dude, this is really cool that Steve gets to do this.
Yeah. Like it's a special thing. Like you're saying with the swimming, like there's only about the Great Salt Lake, there's like 30 people that finish maybe every year. So it's a big deal. And
Can I ask how many people tried to do it? Like how many
most people, there's only a couple people who don't finish the try that start, but it depends on the year, but it's hard. It's definitely not an easy thing. That salty water is brutal.
Well,
and
I'm sure a lot of people don't sign up because they know it's hard. Like, does it take a while?
For me, I'm very, very, very slow. So for me, it takes me an hour at least. But other people can do it in half that time because they're way faster than me. But anyway, I don't know. I would be annoyed if somebody couldn't support. I mean, maybe if they were going out of town or had some like really good reason, then that's fine. But I don't expect my family doesn't ever come, and that's fine. But like, I just feel if I was actually with somebody, I would really want them to come.
Yeah. And I think that what's also strange is, say she, like you said, has some kind of work event or is out of town. She's not even holding space for the conversation to allow him to be excited about it. But I do think that makes the end a lot sweeter when she shows up and they had that sweet moment and she's like, oh, he was robbed. And it's this really sweet moment where she's watching him practice. And that gave me little flutters in my heart.
Because you want the person you're with to be your cheerleader, to be, to excited about you and the things you care about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I would be annoyed if I was a Miranda. I mean, if I was Steve, I would be annoyed if I was Steve. But this episode is not great, especially the portrayal of Adina. The sister was bad. I don't know. I'm trying to think if so you like this one less than the previous episode?
I think I do. I think I do like this less. I think I do.
I mean, I do like the introduction of Aiden. We also get the first, at least in my memory, the first appearance of the Magnolia Bakery, which became very iconic for Sex and the City in this episode. They're both terrible. So I think I give it a 4. Yeah.
Me too.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
Okay. So then we have the next episode is called Are We Sluts?
You tell me.
Yeah. And in this one, basically we have Aiden is playing kind of hard to get. He wants to wait until they get to know each other. to be intimate. And I agree, with that. I think that makes a lot of sense.
I agree. I think it makes sense. And everyone's different, and every relationship moves at a different pace. The only thing I do want to say is Aiden wants to wait. LOL. It's only been a week and a half. Like, that's not even really waiting.
Right.
I mean, again, this isn't me. I am very sex positive. I think that it's fine whenever you want to do it. But I don't think that even people I know that are more liberal with their sexual activity than say I would be personally, I don't think they would even consider a week and a half waiting, because a lot of times in New York, you don't even see that person for a long time. So I actually did think that the timeline was a little bit bonkers.
Yeah, no, it's true. And he says, I want to sleep with someone I care about. Don't people date anymore? Romance isn't dead. And she does the post-it with romance on there. And yeah, you're right. Like, I mean, I mean, isn't it usually the rule of thumb, the third date? Isn't that what people normally say? And
yeah,
I mean,
I've heard, how we have all those, like, the rules book, or the rule says different things, but like I've heard conventional wisdom, third date, sometimes fourth. And then I've heard, like, from a guy's perspective, if we're talking, very heteronormatively, if it's like past the seventh date, then you're like, is she interested in me? Right. So that's just, things I've heard bandied about out there. But yeah, I didn't think that this was even like, I
can't have 3 dates in a week and a half.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I guess if you go out every day, you could, but that doesn't seem to be the case. We have also Miranda. She finds out she has an STD, and so she wants Steve to go to the doctors to get checked out, which of course, but she then proceeds to notify all of her previous partners, which that seemed excessive to me. I mean, I don't think you'd have to notify everybody, but just the people that had been recent, right?
Well, what I thought was interesting that surprised me about the show is that she had never had an STD test before. So normally it's like, if you're getting checkups regularly, you'll be having these, and yeah, you would only need to notify recent partners because you would have known the space in which you got it. Did you ever watch the Netflix show? Oh my goodness, I can't think of the name of it, but it's British. The woman that used to be in The Good Doctor is in it. Oh, they changed the name of it to make it more, anyway, someone gets an STD and they have to notify all their partners, but it's a comedy and it's so funny and actually very sweet and charming. But it reminded me, and actually like way more wholesome than it sounds. But this reminded me of Miranda in this journey of contacting all these people. But I thought it was so awful when that dude was screaming at her and he's like, yeah, I have it, but he didn't tell her.
Yeah, it was awkward. That's for sure. And so I guess you would have to go all the way back until you found the person who gave it to you or something. I don't know. I was surprised. I would think you just need to tell your most recent, but what do I know nothing about any of this. So
well, Miranda's obviously not getting regular checkups for that. So she probably should be.
Yeah. And they asked the question, how many men is too many men? Miranda slept with 42 and Steve evidently has double that because he's a bartender and cute.
Okay. This line, when he said that, I wanted to grab him by the cheeks and just kiss him. I just thought it was so like, yeah, it's a little bit of like I'm not saying that's something I'm necessarily attracted to, but the way he said it, it was just so gosh darn charming.
Yeah, it really was cute. So then you have Samantha, who is dating this guy who held up a person in her building up. And so everybody in the building is upset with her for letting this guy in, and basically says that she's a slut and all this stuff. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I do think that Samantha wouldn't be the greatest neighbor to have. She wouldn't be the best.
Weirdly, this plot line made me a little mad because like Samantha lives in a doorman building, and the purpose of that is to have like 24-hour protection. Like,
Right.
yes, people go on breaks as they should because they're part of a union and they do a great job. But then usually you have like a swipe card, no, whatever. But I think what made me mad about this is that like it's her right to have people over. And it's also her right to come in and out at whatever hours she wants. Like I used to work super late hours. And yes, I wasn't inviting strangers into the building, but I would be coming in really late at night. And you can't always control who's like coming in behind you. Cause I actually think the guy that she was with is the one that let the other guy in. And sometimes people try and get in the door after you. So like, I didn't think it was, I just hated the way that they were trying to make her feel bad about it. And saying that she was a slut instead of just saying like you've got to be more careful when you have guests over, you know?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely were very judgy. And I mean, I just think with her, like her entertaining and her being that she's not doing anything illegal or wrong. I just think that she probably wouldn't be the best neighbor to have. but they were definitely very, very judgmental. And she ends up moving to the meatpacking district. So
that made me laugh, and I thought it definitely is the area that Samantha belongs in more because like she wants to go out, she wants to have fun. Like during the pandemic, my fiance and I moved from the Upper West Side to Chelsea downtown because we were like, we want to, you know, go out. We want to try and like stay younger longer. Like we want to move out where all the families are. And I mean, not that we go out that much, but we feel younger here. So
what did you think of Aiden and Carrie in that bathtub? That was kind of fun. It was cute.
I thought that was really fun and sweet and very intimate. Although I will say the last time I shared a bathtub was like when I was 6.
Right.
And it was like me and my sister and my brother in there. I thought I think that's lovely and so intimate. I really like baths and I really don't want anyone else in there with me, no matter how much I love them, but it was sweet.
I'm not a bath person. I've lived in my current house since 2013. I've never used the bath ever. I don't know. I'm not a bath person.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I did not know that. But you just don't like a good, like,
I know. I just like showers better. For some reason.
What I will say is that the only way for me to like get ready for the day or actually be clean is 100% a shower. The bath is when I'm like, I want to read and I just want to like sit somewhere luxurious.
Yeah. Have Charlotte dating this guy who I guess he can't get on until he calls her a whore, which is bizarre. And I don't know. It wasn't a great plot line, Charlotte.
Not a great plot line. I have a hot take on this that I'm sure most people will disagree with. Alexander, I think that's his name.
Mm-hmm.
I think he seems so sweet. And the fact that it's happening when he's in the heat of the moment and then he feels so awful after and he's like blacking out and not, I like that at the end, he's like, I need to go to therapy for this. And I think that's smart. And I think that's great because there's obviously some other stuff going on in there, but I don't think that means that he's not a viable partner. I think he seems like an absolute sweetheart and he's very handsome. And for Charlotte, you know, he's rich, he's perfect on paper other than this little thing.
I mean, it does seem like something you could work around and you figure out.
Exactly. Especially when it's only happening in the heat of the moment. And it's not like he's even doing other things during sex that are violent or disrespectful. It's literally.
It seems like it would be unusual that he couldn't find a different word that he could say that if he knows that bothers her so much, it seems like there's got to be another word that gets you excited.
Well, I think that's actually what scary thing for him was, because I was thinking the same thing until the last time. He doesn't know what's happening. And that's why, like, at the end, when he's like holding off and not wanting to have an orgasm, because he's like, I think I'm just gonna say it and I don't want to. So I think that if he could control it, he would. And when Charlotte told him, he's like, oh my gosh, that's awful. So I liked that he wasn't like, no, you just have to deal with it, or come on, do this for me, it gets me going. He felt truly awful about it. I just think he's a good guy.
Yeah. So this episode, I would give it a 6. I think it is the best of the 3.
Oh, far and away the best of the 3. And to be honest, if I had watched it in conjunction with another set of episodes, I might have even gone a little higher than a 6. But because I was coming off of what we were coming off of, I'm gonna piggyback off of that and also give it a 6.
Well, I forgot to mention, as a New Yorker, how do you feel about Carrie's requirements of being a New Yorker? There's a rent-controlled apartment, chocolate souffle at Le Bernardin, and a Manolo Blahnik sale.
I thought that this was so funny and cute. I would love a rent-controlled apartment. I've never lived in one, but they're hard to come by. Manolo Blahniks, I'm not a big designer shoe person, but I have had the chocolate souffle at Le Bernardin, and it was because my fiance Alex had to go to a client dinner and I went with him. It's an expensive restaurant, so we're not going on our own accord.
Right.
And it was really good.
Yeah, I bet it was really good. Yeah, I mean, I think rent controlled apartments, you'd almost have to like be living, like grown up in New York, and that's how you end up getting it. As opposed to someone moving there. I don't think you could get one. And then, yeah, I don't really care about shoes. I'm like Carrie.
Yeah, you and I aren't, Carrie, like in that way. I like a cute sneaker. Like, I'm very into like cute sneakers, but they're never going to be hundreds of dollars, and they're never going to be heels.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't mind shoes, and I want ones that are comfortable and that will last a while, but I don't think I've ever spent I can't think of any time when I spent more than like $125 on a pair of shoes. That seems to be that's the cap.
I agree.
And normally not even close to that. Normally my shoes are, buy 2 get 1 free style.
I was going to say, I have a pair of sneakers in particular that I'm thinking about that I paid $92 for. And I'm super happy that I did do that. But yeah, I can't think of higher than that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so these episodes weren't the best, but we had fun talking about them, right?
No, I do. Like, that's the thing, Rachel. I love doing this with you because you're one of my closest friends. And I love this show, and I'm glad that we get to do this. And
it is kind of
very frustrated.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting to think there's so many things that seem regressive now that were probably progressive at the time, and just to see how much things have changed in the 20 years plus since the show is interesting. So.
Yeah, it really is, especially because I think we're dealing with characters that should be having adventures and doing more things than even you or I would want to be doing or think about doing. And the fact that you and I are like, whoa, is funny and shows how far we've come over the last 20 years.
And you can see why within Just Like That, they overcorrected, because there was all of this there. And so they kind of overcorrected. That's the only way to say it.
Yeah. And it's so funny because the way they overcorrected gives similar types of cringe to this. Yeah. It's like, oh, you guys, just no, again, no.
So anyway, let us know what you think of these episodes. We'd really be curious for your thoughts in the comments. And Jax, where can people find you?
At Jacqueline C Tweets on Twitter and Jacqueline Collier on Instagram.
Great. And you can follow us at City Girls Pod on Twitter. I try to share anytime I see anything Sex and the City related over there. So it's a lot of fun. Follow us on Twitter, and you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure you're following the Hallmarkies podcast, Hallmarkies Pod, and Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That helps us so much. And if you're watching on YouTube, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And I forgot to say one thing. This week, we actually officially welcomed Jax as a co-host of the podcast. You've only been recording regularly for forever.
Thank
but
you.
welcome. We love you, and we're so happy to have you officially a member of the Hallmarkies podcast.
Well, thank you. I love you guys, and I'm so happy to be officially part of the team.
Yes. And make sure you check out our merch store where you can get really cute City Girls Pod merch, like Jack's mug. And then also, and there's a sale going on actually right now. So definitely check it out. And we have the patron group, and we've got lots of fun stuff going on there. Please take a look at that. We really appreciate it. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye, everyone.